The next console war might not be Xbox versus PlayStation. It might be gamers versus server racks. And I know that sounds dramatic, but look around. Graphics cards are getting weirdly expensive. RAM is getting weirdly expensive. Consoles are getting price hikes instead of those nice little mid-generation price drops we used to get. And every company that used to sell gaming hardware now seems to be staring at AI like a dog looking at a dropped sandwich. Which is rude to the dog. So today I wanted to talk about a simple question. What happens when the hardware that used to be made for gamers is suddenly worth more to people building giant AI factories? Because that's the part that changes everything. Gaming is not dead. PC building is not dead. Consoles are not dead. But the old deal is changing. And if you're a normal person trying to buy a graphics card without needing a financial support group, you're probably already feeling it.
The old deal!
For a long time, the gaming hardware had a pretty easy story. Consoles were the simple box. You bought the PlayStation, or the Xbox, or the Nintendo thing that looked like it had been designed during a cheerful fever dream. Then you played games for years. The company might not make much money on the hardware at first, but that was fine. They got your money later through games, subscriptions, controllers, digital stores, and all the other tiny little ways a plastic box follows you into your wallet. PC gaming was different. PC gaming was the hobby for people who looked at a console and thought, interesting. But what if this cost more and required research? And for a while, that was the trade. You paid more up front, but you got more control. You could upgrade the graphics card, add more RAM, swap storage, build the loudest rectangle your desk could legally support. And every few years, a new graphics card actually felt like a big jump. That part matters. Because if the new card is way faster, gamers will find a way to care. They'll watch benchmarks, they'll compare frame rates, they'll tell themselves, this is basically an investment, which is an absolutely beautiful sentence. Wrong usually, but beautiful. The old hardware cycle worked because the upgrade felt worth it. Then the gains started getting smaller. Maybe the new card is faster, but not wildly faster. Maybe it costs more. Maybe the best features are tied to frame generation, upscaling, or software tricks instead of raw power. So the average gamer starts asking a very dangerous question. Do I actually need this? That question is bad for a company trying to sell every new generation. If gamers are harder to impress, and data centers are still buying everything they can get, the business math gets pretty obvious. Gamers still matter, but they're not the richest customer in the room anymore. The clearest example is NVIDIA.
A new customer!
For years when people thought NVIDIA, they thought GeForce, graphics cards, PC gaming, drivers, ray tracing, people arguing online about VRAM with the energy of a courtroom drama. But NVIDIA is not mainly a gaming story anymore. In the quarter ending in April of 2026, NVIDIA reported $81.6 billion in revenue. Of that $81.6 billion, data center was $75.2 billion. That's roughly 92% of NVIDIA's revenue. That's not a side business. That's the business standing in the middle of the room eating the rest of the buffet. And this changes the whole power balance. A gamer wants a better graphics card, but they also care if it costs $700 or $1,200 or, please don't make me explain this purchase to my family dollars. A data center buyer is different. They're buying racks of hardware. They're buying thousands of chips. They're building systems where the goal is not to get better frame rates in Cyberpunk. The goal is to train AI models, run AI services, rent compute, and beat the next company to whatever the new AI gold rush is supposed to be this week. When that customer shows up, the gamer is still important, but the gamer is no longer the customer with the biggest wallet. And once that happens, every part of the hardware market starts asking an uncomfortable question. Why sell the best stuff to normal people when enterprise customers will buy more of it, pay more for it, and complain less loudly about the RGB? This is where memory comes in.
Memory got weird!
RAM is one of those things normal people ignore until it gets expensive. It's like tires, or printer ink, or the weird little plastic inside your dishwasher that costs $46 because apparently civilization is fragile. For gaming, memory is everywhere. Your PC uses system RAM, your graphics card uses VRAM, your console has memory, your handheld has memory, your SSD matters. And AI systems are hungry for a lot of the same supply chain. They need high bandwidth memory, they need server memory, they need storage, they need piles of parts that used to feel boring until the price tag started doing parkour. TrendForce projected conventional DRAM contract prices jumping over 60% in a single quarter. That's not a tiny bump. That's the kind of number that makes a PC builder stare at a shopping cart and quietly close the browser. And the lawsuits around DRAM pricing make the bigger picture sound even worse. One lawsuit claims conventional DRAM prices rose by 700% over 4 years. At that point, RAM starts sounding like a computer part and starts sounding like something you should finance through a bank. Now, to be clear, not every price increase is caused by AI alone. There are supply limits, there are manufacturing choices, there are business cycles, there are tariffs, there are companies trying to protect margins, and there are also lawsuits accusing the big DRAM companies of restricting supply and pushing prices up. But the suspicion is not hard to understand when 3 companies dominate the market and prices start acting ridiculous. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron dominate DRAM. So if those companies prioritize server memory, high bandwidth memory, and the most profitable buyers, normal consumers feel it. Maybe not instantly, but eventually. The pattern is not complicated. AI demand pulls on memory. Manufacturers chase the most profitable products. Consumer memory gets tighter, PC parts get more expensive, console makers get squeezed, and the normal buyer gets to enjoy the classic human tradition of paying more for less emotional joy.
Consoles!
This is where console people sometimes get a little too comfortable. There's this idea that consoles are protected from all of this because they're closed boxes. And yes, consoles are simpler than PCs, but they're not magic. An Xbox is still made out of chips, memory, storage, a power supply, a board, cooling, plastic, shipping, retail margins, and a corporation somewhere trying not to look nervous during an earnings call. A PlayStation is the same thing. If the parts inside the box get more expensive, the box has a problem. For years, the console business could rely on scale, make millions of the same machine, negotiate huge deals, get prices down over time, maybe even sell the hardware thin or at a loss, because the real money came later through games and services. But that only works when costs cooperate. If memory prices rise, storage prices rise, chip costs rise, and shipping stays messy, the old console model gets uglier. And that's why price hikes matter. Not because one price hike means the sky is falling. It matters because consoles used to feel like the escape route from expensive PC games. Now they're getting dragged into the same weather. If memory stays expensive, console makers have 3 ugly choices: delay hardware, raise prices, or ship less exciting specs. None of those are great. One makes gamers impatient, one makes gamers angry, one makes gamers do side-by-side comparison videos with the red arrows and disappointed music. You may still get better value from a console than a custom PC. Honestly, for a lot of people, you probably will. But for the era of the box gets cheaper over time is not guaranteed anymore. The box just might stay expensive or get more expensive, which is a strange reward for patience. Congratulations, you waited. Now that costs extra.
The boring part!
Now we have to talk about ARM and x86, briefly, because I can feel some of you getting ready to leave. Don't leave, I'll make this painless. x86 is the old PC language most gaming computers speak. If you built a gaming PC, bought a Windows laptop, or downloaded Steam and immediately installed 12 games you'll never play, you were probably using x86 hardware. ARM is different. ARM is the efficient chip language used in phones, tablets, newer Macs, and a growing number of servers. The reason this matters is simple. When hardware gets expensive, companies start caring less about brute force power and more about electricity, heat, costs, and efficiency. That's why ARM keeps coming up. This is not a panic warning. It is a direction of travel warning. ARM matters because it shows where the pressure is going. Smaller, cooler, cheaper to run, more efficient per watt. Windows on ARM can already run many normal Windows apps through emulation. That means the software problem is getting smaller, but for gaming, it's still messy. Drivers matter, anti-cheat matters, old software matters, weird launchers matter. That one game from 2016 you refused to uninstall for emotional reasons also matters. So no, x86 is not dead. Backward compatibility and legacy matter. For PC gaming, x86 is still the safer bet. But the industry is clearly asking a different question now. It's not only, how do we make the fastest chip? It's also, how do we make a chip that is fast enough, cheap enough, cool enough, and profitable enough? That's a very different future. And it's why handhelds matter. It's why APUs matter. It's why efficient laptops matter. It's why a future console might care less about being a monster and more about being good enough, quiet enough, affordable enough, and locked tightly to a store or a subscription. Not glamorous, but very business. painfully business. So what does this actually mean? First, high-end PC gaming probably stays expensive. The best chips and memory are now useful to customers who are not building gaming PCs at all. And those customers can spend money in a way normal gamers simply cannot. So the high-end stops feeling like a product made for enthusiasts and starts feeling like enterprise hardware that occasionally lets a gamer buy one as a cry for help. Second, mid-range PC gaming gets more important. The real fight may not be who has the fastest GPU. It may be who can make the least annoying $700 to $1,000 gaming setup. Third, consoles may stop behaving like cheap, subsidized miracles. They can still be a good value, but the companies making them are under the same hardware pressures as everyone else. Fourth, RAM and storage will matter more than people want them to. Nobody wants to watch a pricing chart for memory. That's fair. It's not exactly fireworks. But if memory prices move hard enough, the whole machine moves with it. Fifth, the industry will keep pushing you towards services. If hardware gets harder to profit from, companies will try to make more money after the sale. Subscriptions, stores, cloud gaming, game passes, cross-platform accounts, digital ownership that feels less like ownership every time you read the fine print. The hardware may just become the doorway, and every doorway now has a subscription taped to it.
AI Gold Rush!
One important thing is this is not really about one villain. It's easy to point at NVIDIA and say, there, that's the problem. And look, NVIDIA is not exactly doing charity work over there. But the bigger problem is demand. AI turned compute into the new oil rush. And when that happens, every shovel seller gets very interested in selling shovels to the people digging the biggest holes. Gamers are still here. Gaming is still huge. People still care about graphics cards, consoles, Steam, Game Pass, PlayStation, Nintendo, mods, frames, and whether their PC sounds like it's preparing for flight. But the hardware industry has a new favorite customer. And it's not the guy comparing two graphics cards at 2 a.m. while pretending this is research and not a cry for help. It's the company building an AI data center. That customer buys more. That customer pays more. That customer moves the supply chain. And the rest of us get whatever deal is left over. So no, gaming hardware is not going away. But the deal is changing. The cheap console escape hatch is less guaranteed. The sensible PC upgrade is harder to find. The high-end GPU is turning into a luxury item with fans. And the future of gaming hardware may be less about who can make the fastest box, and more about who can make a box normal people can still afford without doing financial yoga. Which, speaking as a stick figure, seems unnecessary. I don't even have joints. So here's the question. If gaming hardware keeps getting squeezed by AI demand, what do you think breaks first? PC upgrades? Console pricing? Or the idea that every generation has to be a giant leap forward? Because if humans built the machines, but now the machines are deciding what humans can afford, are you sure you humans are still running the place?